Welcome to the Third Degree Masonic Podcast, where we are always on the level. I'm your host, Brother Samuel.
And I'm your co-host, Brother Gaberial. Tonight, craftsmen, I'd like to let you into a little thing we had at our lodge tonight. We had a speaker come in to give a presentation on chambers of reflection, which I think are very crucial parts of lodges that sometimes go underrepresented in the modern days, with some lodges not even having them. But the idea of reflection is very poignant tonight because I would like to take tonight's episode to reflect on my term in the East that, as of our last stated meeting, has now come to a close, and I am no longer sitting in the East. I am now one of the grumpy past masters on the sidelines. And what do you think about that, Sam? Do you think the idea of me being a grumpy past master fits me better?
Well, you're definitely grumpy. Yeah, probably. I mean, I think in the grand scheme of everything, I think being on the sidelines and being there to be helpful for all of the anything the new worshipful master might need, I think that's where you need to be right now with how hectic your life kind of is.
Yeah, and I kind of jive with being the guy who can help and do stuff more than being the leadership role anyway.
Yeah.
So it does fit me quite a bit.
Well, it's kind of crazy. So when you first were elected to office, we were all gung-ho. I mean, but you had just gotten married and you didn't have anything else going on. I don't even think you were in the Guard again yet. Or you were just getting out.
No, I had I think I had planned on getting out because I was on a 6-month hiatus from June to January. But no, I can remember that too. I can remember being elected, being
everything.
very gung-ho.
I mean, you were like, I'm going to be at the lodge.
We had so much we wanted to do. I'm going to be at the lodge.
Every Tuesday.
I'm going to take every Tuesday off so I can be at the lodge all day, every day.
And then the universe went.
Yeah, the great architect of the universe had other plans for me. It wasn't. You have to have a plan when you come in, but I really think that I bit off a little more than I could chew.
At one time.
At one time, yeah. And it was this idea of that I could fix everything in 1 year. I could fix everything wrong with Freemasonry and our lodge and our brotherhood. I could fix everything in 1 year sitting from that chair in the East. And it took me a little while to realize, oh no, I can't actually do this all by myself.
No way, Jose.
And it's really interesting because sitting in the East has been one of the great experiences of my life. It's always going to be memorable. I'm always going to love it. I'm always going to love being installed by the Grand Master. I'm always going to love that my father, who is also my brother, came and was here for that. I'm so happy that my family was here for the open installation. And it was a lot of good things. I don't want to say that my time in the East was bad, because it wasn't. It was just a lot of tough realizations of, like I said earlier, I bit off a little more than I could chew.
Well, and I think a lot of people do that. I don't think you're the only guilty human being in the world that's had these high aspirations for when they've taken office. It's just the reality of the day-to-day. It's a lot different than what you think in your head, and if you're not prepared for that, it's almost like a shock, you know? So, yeah, we had some bumps over the year, but I think overall, we had a good year.
I do. I do think we had a good year. We brought in some new people. We brought some people back.
Yeah.
Which is always good to get guys re-engaged. We gave out a lot of awards. Thankfully, we did not have a lot of members pass away
Ah, that's
either.
nice.
It's really nice to not have to.
We didn't have to do 55 Masonic funerals. Those are
Yeah,
always the worst.
yeah. It's our solemn duty to do that, but it's always sad when we have to do it. It's it's great that it's great that I was excited to do it, and being in the East, I think, also helped me mature a little bit. I've started going on this like late 20s maturity journey of like, I'm going to start getting healthier, both physically and mentally. I'm going to start decluttering my life a little bit. But this is all like baby steps. And I think being in the East, learning how to temper my expectations and learning how to understand that not everything is going to go the way I want it to go, no matter how well I think I've orchestrated it.
No,
Is
and
a good learning experience to have.
and you can't plan for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe that's a big part of the growth that we've had this year is overcoming some new hurdles that we never thought we were going to have to deal with. I mean, we're both finding ourselves in, we don't have the health that we had when we were in our early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and, I'm dealing with my blood pressure problems and, just trying to relax and declutter. And like you said, it's definitely a learning curve, and getting healthier is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then add to that, now we've got all this stress from Lodge where we're constantly having something that we have to do or it has to be done, and it feels like we're always 2 steps behind.
Which doesn't help your blood pressure.
No, it does not. But that's okay. We're learning. It's another year, and now you get to do the part you've been looking forward to, which is to kind of be the mentor or be the guy that helps out.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that. We actually need more of that than we need a master.
I'm very excited to do that because all of the officers behind me, like the new master, most worshipful brother Charlie Murphy, has been through this 100 times.
Yeah.
He knows the ritual inside and out. The officer positions are now secured and taken care of. I can devote my time to studying my ritual, mentoring new candidates, and bringing people in. That's what I've always wanted to do, and that's what I can focus solely on. I don't have to worry about making sure that I introduce everyone and make sure that every single DEO is introduced in exactly the same order that they need to be introduced in, and that minutes from the previous meeting get approved before this bill gets read, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So it's going to be, I'm much more in my element being the guy who volunteers for something the worshipful master needs done, or volunteers to go sit with a candidate, or go volunteer to have lunch with an older brother, so something like that. Of course, my life schedule, if you and I both know,
to be determined.
Yeah, both of our lives are a little hectic at the moment. You and your work schedule, and me and my family and work schedule.
And you just got, if I remember correctly, the day we came back from Grand Lodge, you got a promotion in the guard, didn't you?
I did. It's long overdue, and I may actually be getting another promotion here soon because the wheels of military bureaucracy move so slowly. But that's a conversation for another day. Maybe a topic of masonry in the military, much like an episode coming out of masonry
know a bunch of
video
those.
games.
We know a bunch of those. It's just there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see next year. Maybe this is the time where you get to sit down and you can help Master Taylor because he needs help. Him and I were just sitting down and talking about something I said to him that he told me, he was like, I was absolutely against it until you said something and it made me think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and now I'm completely on your side about it.
I know exactly what you're talking about too. So.
The principles proficiency, opposite way of doing it for candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just because, we can go through the traditional form and there's a place for that. But I feel like in today's day and age, maybe something like 70% of entered apprentices don't make it to fellowcraft.
I know that's such a sad, and that is not exactly a topic for tonight.
No, it's not.
That is a topic that we could be talking for.
But that
hours.
70%, let's say if we owned a business, that would be unacceptable numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
You could be somebody with him trying to figure out how we get those numbers down.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do something different? How does Genoa Lodge become like Arts and Science Lodge or something like that, where we are cutting edge, doing something different? We're in the forefront of masonry.
Absolutely.
So I think I see you doing something like that, doing something with Master Taylor, mentoring candidates, what have you. But on another fun note, we also had the pleasure of recently being installed by the Grand Master himself.
Yes.
Again.
Yes. Our new Grand Master for the state of Ohio, Most Worshipful Brother Carter. Amazing guy.
Amazing guy.
I think he's a very much a average Mason's Mason.
He's a Mason's Mason.
Yeah, he's a guy who's gonna really make sure that the brothers feel taken care of and that the brothers feel appreciated.
Absolutely.
He's gonna do good things during his tenure as Most Worshipful.
You and I, we've talked about this at odds. I am not the parade and ceremony guy. Everybody is brother to me. I hardly ever call anybody right worshipful or most worshipful. I just call them brother because in my head, that's what we are. Mm-hmm. And if you feel the need that I have to call you by a title, you're in the wrong organization or you're here for the wrong reasons.
The day you call me worshipful Brother Fawcett is the day I'm going to smack you.
I mean, I called you that
as a joke,
to be
sure,
facetious. But,
yeah.
And when I'm master, I'm going to make sure everybody calls me worshipful before they say
bows and kisses.
I'm going to do it just to be
the
facetious.
Rings,
I'm going to say, I'm sorry, that's not Brother Wilburn. That's Worshipful Brother Wilburn. Thank you. But it was really cool because meeting him, he's the first Grand Master that I've had that, to be fair, the ones that I've met from our district, Most Worshipful Brother Grindle and Most Worshipful Brother Murphy, I know them. I've known them since I've become a Mason. They're, I didn't feel like I don't have to walk on eggshells with them, mm-hmm. right? I've met a couple of Grandmasters in my lifetime where I'm like, I don't really know you. I don't know what you're about. I don't know what your goal is for this. Or there was a couple of them I just straight up didn't agree with. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how this year goes. But I think Brother Carter is the first one that I've met that I, watched him speak after he accepted his nomination or after he was voted in.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, it was very short and sweet. He didn't talk for 45 minutes. It was nice. But what he did talk about, and also hearing him talk, he does... he kind of gets on the mic in front of the camera and he does
Masonic vlogs.
Yeah, he does Masonic vlogs and he puts them on Facebook and we share them out and he kind of gets his message across. I feel like I've known this guy.
It's like FDR's Fireside Chats kind of thing.
He's a very accessible guy.
Which is something when I went into my term in the East, I really wanted to do. And I agree with you that I really like Most Worshipful Brother Carter for that. And I tried to implement stuff like that, but I became too busy at work,
sure.
Too busy with the guard, too busy with everything.
Well, it's easy to do. It's easy to do when you have chosen Masonry to be your thing. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you that at this point in time, at least for the next 300 and some odd days, Most Worshipful Brother Carter will eat, sleep, and breathe Masonry. That's it. That's all he's going to do. We don't do that. We are, we're Masons 24/7, 365, but, you know, we're only doing Masonic things, official activities on certain days of the week or occasionally, or when we see each other or, something like that, or we're doing good things. We're obviously doing that in our hearts because we're Masons, but we're not full-time Masons. And with the position he's in, he has to be.
Mm.
And especially, I guess, from what I'm hearing, he's kind of a technical guy. That's what he does for a living. So it just probably seems really natural. But what I really like about him also is, he came into our lodge, and had I not seen him get installed 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have known he was the Grand Master. He just came up, ate lunch with us, talked, told jokes, ripped on Charlie. I mean, he was just like one of the guys. And if I hadn't have known he was the Grand Master,
would have just thought he was another brother.
Would have just thought he was another brother. So,
which is honestly the way it should be.
That was really cool. I really liked that, and I see big things coming from him, and I look forward to. We actually got to speak with him after our installation, and there's a pretty good chance you might hear from him on this show, listeners.
Hopefully, anytime, any place,
or you might just get little blurbs from him. Maybe we'll get him to send us some words of wisdom, and we'll put them in our pauses. So
absolutely. So to tie back to some statements on my term made earlier, I do want to do something that, as we always say in Masonry, being right and proper, and giving thanks where thanks is due, and giving credit where credit is due.
Oh, God.
And I would like to start off by personally thanking you.
Oh, God.
For all the work that you did do during my term. There were times where I couldn't manage to get these things done by this time, or get these brothers contacted, or have this thing ordered by this time. And you really stepped up, not just for me. I know you did it because we're brothers and you love me and I love you.
That was my next words. I only did it because I love you. That's it.
No, but you also did it because you love this lodge and you want this lodge to succeed.
You're right.
And so you really stepped up during my term, and I really appreciate that. And I think
welcome.
it shows devotion to the lodge. It shows good qualities of a man and a Mason.
Oh, geez.
And well, no,
I
deserve
I know.
it.
I'm not
you
good at
deserve
this.
It.
This is the part I'm not good at, is I am good at giving people the compliments, but when somebody compliments me, I'm like, okay.
And even though he's not here right now, I have to thank our audio guy, Brother Turco, because he served as our basically super steward during my whole term.
Yeah. He was your trustee. He was your steward. He was everything. There wasn't anything Brother Turco didn't do. So
he got light bulbs fixed. He got trash taken care of. He got all the meals made. Almost every meal for all of our meetings he took care of. He was on his A game.
Absolutely.
During this term, and I really appreciate it. And I also need to thank the lodge as a whole, because there was a very critical moment in my life that I needed my full focus, time, and attention towards. And I could not deal with anything in the world except my family at the moment. Craftsmen, for those of you who don't know, our inspection was slated for January 9th of 2024. On December 27th of 2023 at, I want to say 2 a.m. in the morning.
That sounds about right. Sounds about when you were calling me.
Yeah, I had to rush my wife to the hospital, and it was very touch and go for the first couple of days, because I did not know if my unborn child would survive, or even if my wife would survive.
Because of preeclampsia,
Yeah,
correct?
she had a very serious case of preeclampsia, and
Which
we
essentially, listeners, if you don't know, it means your blood pressure essentially skyrockets and you can't bring it down. It's a problem that happens during birth, and it's unfortunately it's not rare.
along with a slew of other symptoms, it's the
Right,
number one killer of unborn children
and women,
and pregnant women.
yeah,
The
it's not rare. It
the
happens all the time.
the
It's
entirety of my
terrifying.
mental focus and time was devoted to being at the hospital with my wife and Liam, who had yet to be born, and I knew that this may interfere with our inspection, which would be coming up in a
4
week.
days,
Yeah, a week and a half from the time we went into the hospital.
right?
So we were we were touch and go for a few days, and then things stabilized. We got to celebrate the new year from a hospital room. That is always that is a very interesting experience to celebrate the New Year's in a hospital room. That is quite the humbling experience.
Uh-huh.
And
I've never had to do that in my life.
and then
Christmas is
and
even
then 5 days, well, technically 4 days later,
better.
my son was born.
Yeah,
Liam was born at 27 weeks.
yeah.
He weighed 1 pound 14 ounces when he was born.
Uh-huh.
And those first about week or 2 weeks after he is born, he has about at minimum 20% chance, at max 40% chance of survival.
Right.
Well, it was probably more than that, but we were really concerned and really afraid and preparing for the worst.
Which I'm sure screws with your head in a
It
way that I can't even begin to
it
fathom.
was something that really challenged me as a husband and as a man and as a Mason, because I knew that that something we had been preparing for as a lodge for a long time was right around the corner.
Yeah.
So I hadn't gotten sleep for a couple of days, and I think I called you up probably. I was probably communicating with you a lot. I think I've forgotten the amount of times I would call you
All the time.
while I was dealing with that. And I just realized that there was no way I was going to be able to make the inspection.
No. And
No way.
even if you did,
My head wouldn't be there.
your head would not have been in the game. And I have to say we were very blessed that we had a very understanding district deputy grand master, because I was like, you need to call Todd. And I'm pretty sure you told me when you called Todd, you were like, hey, I'm not going to be there this. And he went, oh, well, of course you're not going to be there. What?
Yeah.
You know,
It was a man who Todd definitely understood the importance of family and my welfare, and I really owe the lodge thanks, because you guys stepped up and you guys put on what I heard was a very impressive Master Mason degree for the inspection.
we had fun.
And I was thrilled. I think I even, if I remember correctly, my wife and son were in a semi-stable condition, and she said I could go get some air and get some time away from the hospital for just a minute. And I think I just autopilot drove here to the lodge. Like, I didn't even think I was going anywhere. I think I was just going to go out to get fresh air, and I just drove right to the lodge. And I came up here. I think I was probably wearing sweatpants and a button-down shirt, which is a weird combination, sweatpants and a button-down shirt.
Wear what you got.
And I come up here, and it's like 9:30, maybe even 10 o'clock, and you guys are all, a bunch of people have left. You guys are all like,
We're just celebrating.
yeah, you guys are all celebrating, and I think I just kind of collapsed and sat down in the chair, and you guys were saying how it's all going to be okay, it's all right, and that everything was taken care of while I was gone. And I accomplished despite some of the critics, like the critiques I have of my term in the East, I accomplished a lot. But even accomplishing a lot, I think that was the highlight of my term in the East, is that my brothers and my lodge took care of what needed to be taken care of while I had to devote myself 110% to my wife and son.
That's how it's supposed to be.
That's how it's supposed to be, and I will never forget that. I will never forget how how just sorry.
It's okay.
It's I will never forget how my lodge took charge and took the responsibility and knocked it out of the park to take care of it. And like some people say it reflected good on me because I was the master, and they said that I had a good lodge under me as a good master, but no. That's all on the quality of the brothers here. I had nothing to do with that. I was in a different mental zip code at the time.
Right. Well, and you got to remember, like, we're inspections one night of the year. Even Mark was saying, it's one night of the year. It's really, if you got a candidate for it, great. It's about him. Make a big deal out of it. But if you don't, which we didn't, it's just another night. Like, but we have to do it. So we got through it and we did it. But it was more everything happening all at one time. It was like the timing couldn't have got any worse. But I just remember you calling me and me just kind of having to like tell you, like, there's nothing you can do. For the first time in your life, there's nothing you can do. All you can do is be there. That's it. And even then, you can't do much other than that, because you got to trust the people that are there caring for your wife and your unborn child. Like, you guys were at Toledo. They've got some of the best and most dedicated NICU nurses and doctors. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better team. The only one I'd argue was the one at my own hospital, but we don't have that anymore. They closed us down, unfortunately. But
almost 90 days we spent in the
You did. You spent a long time. I remember it was really funny. We went out to dinner the one day, and this was after Caitlin was home, and we went to Applebee's. I can't remember why we went to Applebee's, but like you guys like called the floor, and she was like, hey, I want to talk to Liam's nurse, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, he's doing great. He's this and doing that. And I was just like, see, they're finally understanding how this works.
It was
just let the healthcare heroes do their jobs.
It was 90 days of commuting back and forth to the hospital almost daily to see my son, and my wife sometimes spending multiple days in a row even after she had already been discharged at the hospital, because she got to stay at the Ronald McDonald House right next door to the hospital for a majority of the time that we were actually in the NICU, so that she could recover from her C-section as well as stay close to him. And that's a time when you are really vulnerable as a person, and really I don't want to say jaded, but you are really questioning your place in the universe and your purpose, and lesser men probably sometimes lash out at points like that, but it's...
Did you kind of understand why some dads go to the grocery store for milk and don't come back?
See, if we're going to get all philosophical here for a second...
Dad went for cigarettes.
It is...
Come back.
I really think it is my upbringing on a farm and my career in DMLA and my career in masonry that really like makes me think that there's no situation that I could ever accept that as my course of action.
No,
That that,
absolutely not.
that and
No.
and it was my Masonic principles, it was my Masonic teachings that helped me not be a total wreck and a total mean person to everyone around me
Right.
at the time. It was, because when I was alone, I would be driving back and forth from the hospital, just screaming and crying
Well, it was
and cursing and like not knowing if my son was going to survive because there was at one point he had a relapse and had a hole in his lung about 3 weeks after being in the NICU, and we were terrified, and
yeah. It's
it
like
it
riding a roller coaster.
and the lodge all the time was still there offering prayers. You were calling me, all the friend group was calling me and making sure that I was okay, and the lodge was still taking care of stuff while I was gone.
Letting your dogs out.
Yeah, letting
And
my
the
dog
dog.
out and taking care of my cats, and it was an example of brotherhood taking care of its brothers.
It's what we're supposed to do.
It is, and
And
that's
then
that's that's I would say I can't sum up my term in one word. I can't do something like that. I can't sum up in one poignant tiny little phrase. But if I would have to summarize it, I would say that it was ambition, it was ambition, it was perseverance, it was heartache, it was
exhausting.
the best of times, it
It
was
was
the
the
worst
worst of
of times.
times.
Um
Really was, though.
it was loyalty, it was brotherhood, it was struggles, it was arguments, it was failed projects, it was
Successful
it was
projects.
successful projects, it was full fishing nets, it was empty nets full of nothing but old shoes.
A lot of those.
Yeah, it was an ebb and flow of a term. And I really want to walk away from this not in a negative way, because I actually don't feel negative about my term. I know at points, as you can probably well attest to, there were times I was feeling pretty negative about my term in the East.
Sure.
But I don't want to walk away from it feeling negative, and I don't. I think we accomplished a lot.
Now that it's done.
Yes, now that it's done, I feel much better about it. And I want to walk away from my term in the East feeling like I'm a better man than I was before because of it, because I learned something. I matured. No matter the mistakes that were made, no matter the failures that happened, we still persevered, we still carried on, and Genoa Lodge didn't burn to the ground.
Nope. It's still here.
It's still here. And I'm glad that something like this also happened so early in my life, because I'm a very young past master.
Yeah. Are you even 30 yet?
No. I will be 30 in
Just wait for that.
2026. Yeah.
That's always
So
fun.
I don't know if I'm Genoa's youngest master, but I'm definitely close to on the list of like the top 5 or top 3 even youngest masters of Genoa Lodge, probably. But I am glad that it's something that happened so early in my life. Yes, so that I can point it out to my son and be like, I did that. I did
that thing.
I did a thing. But also so that I can have a good groundwork moving forward, and if God forbid, in the future, I decide to do it again, That's a really big if.
I
Um,
was going to ask you, you think you'll do it again?
we'll get to that in a second. That if I do ever do it again, that I will have a much better framework, much better foundation, and much better understanding of what the job and position actually entails.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, if I go to do it again, I'll also have a better knowledge of masonry. I'll have a better footing on my ritual. I'll be much more prepared to do it in the future than I was when I first started.
Well,
Now,
and I've also argued, and I've argued this for years, and I'll go on record saying it. I don't think the term for worshipful master should only be 1 year. Because the whole first year you're doing it, you have no idea what you're doing. If you do know what you're doing, it's still a struggle. And then by the time you go through your term, from November to November, essentially, there's not a whole lot of time to get stuff done. Where if you were a master for a year or 2 years, it would give you more time to sit in that seat and for everybody else that's sitting in those seats to learn their parts. But that's just me, and that's my personal opinion that does not reflect those of the Grand Lodge of Ohio or its jurisdictions.
Which again is something we can completely delve into on another episode all by itself.
Absolutely. I plan to.
Oh boy, we're going to get some emails on that one.
Maybe I'll get another phone call from the Grand Secretary.
But no, so
2 for 2.
To answer your question, though, of if I would do it again, I very much have to say, at minimum, Liam would have to be already a couple years into high school before I will even consider doing it again, or he's like off at college.
So you're thinking more like 20 years from now. So when you're like 50.
I'm thinking when I'm in my 40s or 50s is when I could step back into that again. I'm thinking that for the next foreseeable future, I'd say that at least the next 20 years of my life, I am going to have to really devote to my Masonic ritual studies, not my administration Masonic studies.
You can be a practical Mason.
I want to be a Mason mentor. I want to learn my ritual better than I already know it. And I want to be involved in my son's life. And I want to foster a good career. And I'm a person who struggles with balancing things. I mean, I'm going to therapy to learn how to do that. But it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of hard work to learn how to do it. And once I learn how to do it, I don't want to then go right back to adding stuff on it just because I'm thinking, oh, cool, I know how to manage my time now. I can add this back in.
Right.
No, it's going to be a while before, unless the lodge desperately needs someone.
Right.
Like the lodge is going to fold unless I step back into that chair.
Well, yeah,
that's the only circumstance where I would say I'm going to go back into the East before a period of like 15 to 20 years has passed.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think I base it off of my head by the time Liam hits high school, I will be 45, 46.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 31.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see you being master at that point, because I feel like there's a reason why the guys on that board were a lot older than we are. I think there's a lot of things that I don't want to say that we take for granted, but, you think about it, how hard it is to balance life right now. I mean, you're working a full-time job, new wife, new baby. Overtime, bills to pay, house trying to sell, got a farm you're trying to help get back on its feet, taking care of your extended family. That's a full bingo card for anybody, and then you go ahead and you add Freemasonry on top of it. And not only just being a member, showing up, doing your part is already, I don't want to say a big ask because we want to be here, but to then be its head administrator, it's a lot. It's a lot to put on somebody in this stage of our lives.
Yeah, it
it just
is.
Makes me wonder when it comes to be my time what I'm going to have to do to avoid. Because if I don't learn from the masters that are ahead of me as I go through the chairs, then I would not be doing my job properly.
Well, hopefully Ryan will still be your secretary.
Oh, I hope so.
I would love to be your LEO. That's something I could probably do.
I could probably pull that off.
But what I will do is I'll time it right so that I will step back in and be master again when you are Grand Master.
Shut up. That'll never happen.
Because once you're done in the East, you'll probably have been in Scottish Rite for a couple years again.
Oh my God.
And then Joe Radosi will help fast track you to being some sort of district deputy advisor.
Oh my God.
Then they'll make you a district deputy Grand Master. Then you'll step in as...
You're raising my blood pressure.
Then you'll step in as Grand Junior Steward.
Oh God.
There'll be an opening.
Do you not start at Grand Tyler?
Oh, maybe you do. So yeah, you'll start at Grand Tyler.
Oh God.
There'll be an opening, and Jeff will appoint you to Grand Tyler or something like that.
Oh jeez, oh peeps.
And then when you are Grand Master, I will be Master again.
Okay. All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. Gabe's never going to be Master ever again. It was this long-winded roundabout way of saying he's not going to do it again.
Are you telling me you're not going to be Grand Master?
No.
You're not.
I'm not going to tell you.
You're not going to be Most Worshipful Brother Wilburn?
I would. I'm going to go out here on a limb here, okay? I'm sorry, listeners, this is going to be a tangent for a minute. If I was the Grand Master and somebody called me Most Worshipful Brother Wilburn, I would say, I'm sorry, I'm just Brother Wilburn today. Thank you. And if anybody was like, oh, you're going to have a Grand Master's reception, I'd be like, no, we're going to meet at a soup kitchen and we're going to feed people and take all the money that you spend on these fancy dinners and give it to a charity because I don't need it. What can I do for you as Grand Master? What does your lodge need? How do we make better Masons? How do we make more Masons? How do we make better Masons? That's just my soapbox. I'm not throwing that at anybody. That's just, if I was Grand Master, that's what I would do. And I would ruffle some feathers on that, but I don't care. Because you know what? I would rather show up to your district and build bikes for kids. And if I'm coming to your district and you're here to honor me, show me you're being a good Mason. Show me your district are the Masons I want them to be. That's what I would want to see.
I like that.
That's just me. I don't give me some big dinner. I'm going to get fat. I've already got high blood pressure. I don't need it. Just take me to whatever charity we're all going to do at one time, and let's do it. Take the pictures there.
See, this is why I hope that legislation passes where anyone can be nominated for Grand Master, and I will go door to door of every lodge.
Have you heard of Brother Wilburn?
Have you heard of Brother Wilburn from Genoa Lodge?
I'm going to be Brother Vermin Supreme of Masonry. Everybody gets a unicorn.
A charity unicorn.
A charity unicorn. Sorry, listeners. I'm sorry we took you on that tangent.
I think they'll love that tangent. I think it'll be well received.
But anyways, just overall, if we had to sum up your whole year, I would say we made some progress this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very stressful year, but we got there.
Yeah.
And now we have a master who's sitting in the chair that's done it before.
Multiple times.
We're not even going to talk about his other accolades because
everyone knows.
We don't need to.
Yeah, everyone knows all.
But I think we're gonna have a very successful year this year, and then we'll have another successful year, And we're just going to keep going, and we're just going to keep building off of. You built off of Brother Cashin. Brother Murphy will build off of you, and Brother Allred will build off of him, and so
then
forth
you
and
will
so forth.
build an empire off of
the sand.
Allred.
The
Or well,
sand, the
Christian will
space,
come in
the
to give
spice
you
is life.
your foundation, and you will build this massive monopoly hotel empire
Oh my God.
on top of it.
I love it. I wish I was that ambitious, but I'm not. We'll see what happens. I have
We can
to
change that in a couple of years.
I have to sit down and start. Honestly, now's the point where I'm really starting to think about my term as master and be taking it seriously. Because we've kind of joked about it, and you're like, "Oh, when you're master," I'm like, "I'm never going to be master of this lodge. Pfft, that'll never happen." I mean, yeah, could I sit in the seat and could I sit in the chair and do all of that? Yeah, absolutely I could, but there's better options. But now it's finally, now that I'm moving through the chairs and it's not just a one-off like I originally thought it was going to be with Brother Cashin. It's just kind of like it's now's the time where I really got to start taking it seriously. Like, I will probably have to, takes a lot more time off of work than I thought. If I've learned anything, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I'm going to have to base my year and start planning my year and the things I want to do my year. I'm going to have to start planning them now, more or less. I mean, we're really only talking, what, 4 years?
3 years.
3 years.
Well, technically, if we include the rest of this term, it's
It'd be 4 years.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So it'd be 4 years I've got to plan. And
you've got 3 years to plan, and then your 4th year will be executing your plan.
Yeah. And I've got some things I'd like to see us do.
Good.
And
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I think I am, actually. I think, but it's also going to require me to take a hiatus from some other things that are really important in my life too. So, but I think after a certain amount of time of doing those things, I think I've earned a break for a minute so I can focus on other things, because I'm only going to do this master thing once.
Yeah.
I love Charlie and Mark and all that, but no, I don't want to do it more than once. The fact I'm doing it once
is enough.
And, because then after that, everyone has to call me Worshipful Brother Wilburn forever. Ha ha. As the joke goes, because remember I said I'm not into that.
Yeah. So,
but I could be facetious, like, I'm sorry, that's Worshipful Brother.
It's Worshipful Brother to you.
Worshipful Brother Wilburn.
So I'm glad that we had this chat.
Me too.
I'm glad we got to talk about my year a bit. I'm glad we got to talk about the future speculation too.
It was nice to, what do they call that when they debrief?
Mm-hmm.
It was like debriefing.
Hot wash.
Mm-hmm. How are things? How can we learn? What can we do in the future? Some fun things coming from the podcast too.
Oh yeah.
Now that you're no longer master, you can focus a little bit on this, because I don't think this is very stressful. I think we're just having fun, minus the fact that we're here pretty late tonight. And
it's whatever.
It's whatever. What's time anymore? But I'm really excited for the future. We've got a couple of really fun episodes coming to you really soon. We may even have a very special guest coming from the North Pole. So,
ooh,
yeah. I reached out. Did you know that there's a Masonic lodge at the North Pole?
I had heard about that. I had always been told that there was.
There is. And I found the master of that lodge, and he is going to actually happen to be in the state of Ohio. So we'll be able to sit down and record with him.
Wonderful. I can't wait for it.
It'll be fun. So,
Craftsman, we really hope that you've enjoyed this episode tonight. Thank you for going with me on a trip down memory lane as we recounted my the journeys during my term in the East, and as well as speculating with us about Brother Wilburn's future as most worshipful Brother Wilburn.
Oh God, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth.
Craftsman, as always, we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. If you can find it within the length of your cable toe, to give us a like on Facebook, or to give us a comment on our YouTube page, or become a new subscriber, we'd really appreciate it. We appreciate all the likes, listens, and feedback on all of our platforms.
And remember, craftsmen,
Keep your working tools in order.
and always be on the level. Thanks for joining us.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the Grand Lodge of Ohio, its officers, or any of its jurisdictions. They only reflect those of the hosts or guests.